Your money, you can pay me in respect. Once I do it big, what's the follow? It's a check. I need 100 bags, nothing more, nothing less. And the ops feel away, cause I'm next. I'm a threat. Oh yeah. Really, y'all don't know this, y'all in danger. I'm a threat. It's a gamble with your life, cause you know that it's a bet. It's a bet. You know I ain't letting up, my foot is on your neck. I don't take my word for it, this a promise and a threat. Really, y'all don't know this, y'all in danger. I'm a threat. Gamble with your life, cause you know that it's a bet. It's a bet. You know I ain't letting up, my foot is on your neck. I don't take my word for it, this a promise and a threat.
Still young spits, but you call me young boss. Eating real good, so a man's gon' floss. Got my way up in my view real posh. You a frisbee man, so that mean you get tossed. Got a new clip, studio in the back. Numbers ran up, had to spit it with the chaps. Realest in the city, in my record, a fact. But your man's only chat when he do it in the raps. Like, squad go lost and don't really care what it cost them. You don't wanna cost them. My lifestyle awesome, couldn't decide if my gal wanted to, so I butt them. Don't run track, but I run up a check. Run, do it real big, gotta one up the next. Talk to the sky with the one up, I'm blessed. I'm young, rich and black, so you know I'm a threat.
Over. Welcome into Hardcore Penn State Football. It is a cold day here in State College with a little bit of snow, but now sunshine. And we have a not-so-packed episode for you. Going to talk a little bit about spring practice. Going to talk a little bit about the upcoming NFL draft, but not completely dive into it. Going to talk about James Franklin and whether he is aggressive enough in his play calling. And so we'll get into that and a little bit more in just a second. Thank you for being here. If you haven't already, please make sure to like the video and subscribe wherever you're listening. Whoa. It's going to be a problem today. All right, let's get into it. Welcome into Hardcore Penn State Football. I'm Cory Lestochi. With me, as always, the great Shawn Kane. How you doing today, Shawn?
Pretty good, Cory. Cold day here in Scranton. Kind of bitter out. How about you?
Yeah, it was. I think we woke up to 27 degrees today.
Yeah,
and we had flurries all day, so we literally had snow coming down. So,
yeah,
as much fun as that is. Sorry, I'm just trying to do things I probably should have done before we started the show. But
yeah, it's kind of why I don't really love spring very much. Because in Northeast Pennsylvania, same thing in Central Pennsylvania, I've lived there for a few years myself. In the spring, it's like you don't really get one. It's just an extension of winter with a few nice days mixed in, and then it's hot.
You know, I'll be honest with you, I actually love the spring, and it's funny that you say that because it's very maybe romantic of me, but I love the idea of like new life, and I just think of like, the bear cubs that were born in the winter and like they're experiencing life for the first time. I'm all for it.
Oh, you have a very philosophical approach to it.
I do. There's something about, a little starting over kind of vibe. So I'm all for it. You know who seems to be starting over, Shawn, completely? The Athletic, which if you've been listening to us for an extended period of time, I want to probably say that we have endorsed Audrey Snyder at The Athletic, call it at least 10 times over the last 3 years. Shawn, do me a favor and bump your camera down just a little bit. We've had Audrey on the show, not so much recently, but a couple of years ago, we had her on multiple times. We love what she's done over there. I mean, just great stuff. If you hadn't heard the news, The Athletic has decided to not have a Penn State specific beat reporter covering Penn State. So basically didn't fire Audrey, just, removed her position. I guess you would say how that's done. They had done that with a couple of other schools over the years. I remember Clemson used to have one. Hell, I think even like South Carolina had one when they first started. Like, what the Athletics' original business prop was that like you were going to basically round out all these schools with local beat reporters that know them, and you were going to, basically encapsulate college football or college sports in general under this kind of umbrella of really talented beat reporters. That has very much changed. New York Times bought them a couple of years ago, and I think that's really been the continuous demise to a certain degree of what they were trying to do there. I understand maybe consolidating a handful of them. I mean, if you go back in the day, Shawn, I think everyone kind of starts out with a similar business proposition. ESPN used to have maybe not a reporter for every Big Ten school, but like most of them. And they slowly kind of went away. Josh Moyer reported for Penn State specifically. Yep. I was a Dan Murphy for Ohio State. Like, they had a bunch of them specific to each school. Moyer, I think, is still at Center Daily Times. I don't know, maybe not. I don't even know what he's doing now. I know he's not covering Penn State specifically, but I think he still might be with Center Daily Times in a different role. But anywho, Audrey Snyder was let go of the Athletic, posted on X, I think a day and a half ago. And not surprisingly, huge outpouring amount of support from local beat reporters, from previous beat reporters, from us, from pretty much everybody. I already canceled my Athletic subscription. I honestly think they've gone downhill very quickly in that regard. I think they have a bunch of people over there that are a bunch of, and someone please help me out with this. Is the plural of jabroni, or is it jabronis? Because I feel like it might be jabroni. I think it's possible. But it sucks, right? So it sucks that she it will no longer be at least reporting for the Athletic. I would find that she would find something with Penn State, given that she's lived here and she's been a staple of this beat for 15 years. I don't know if it's been exactly that long.
Oh, yeah.
A long time. So who knows what's going to happen there. It sucks. But the problem with the Athletic, and it's a problem with sports media and in some regard media in general, is this, I hate to call it like the Pat McAfee effect, but it's this, it's what media is moving towards. I mean, it's even to a certain extent what the company that owns us is moving towards. A little obviously different situations, but people don't seem to care. And I don't mean like our company. I mean viewers. Viewers don't seem to care as much about good storytelling and good investigated reporting as much as they used to. They just don't. It's about who can break the news first, and it's not even necessarily about getting it right the first time. Nobody cares anymore about some of the great stories that Audrey put out or spent time to investigate as much as they probably should have. And everyone just cares about if Abdul Carter did a TikTok dance or whatever the case may be. That's where we're at nowadays. And I don't want to say we're to blame specifically for Audrey's demise, but as you and I kind of talked about before we started the show today, you can start a Twitter account and provide your feedback to the void, and they will judge you and let you know if your opinions suck or if they're good. Our poor follower Fred the other night tweeted that Penn State doesn't have any other good sports besides football, which we immediately called out, and I literally said that was a dumb tweet, Fred. But you can put that opinion out there, whether you're Fred or whether you're us or whether you're anybody else,
And that undervalues, to a certain extent, what Audrey and good other reporters do. So I'm not saying it's our fault, but the arena at which we're playing in is not the same one when she started her career. And I think that sucks long term from a viewer perspective, because we're going to get crappier content, whether we realize it or not. But that's where we're moving. And anybody can put out their opinion. I would venture to say that's a good thing, because, basically you will learn whether or not people agree with you and want to listen to you very quickly in this space. We've learned that firsthand, growing this organically over 3 years. But we don't have any qualifications from a writer perspective to be doing this.
No. So I guess you could say Cory used to be an athletic supporter, but no longer.
Yeah, absolutely. I literally canceled the day I found out. And now, to be fair, I think I signed up in July, which was a great time to be signed up, because I literally, before football season, could say, do I want this or not? And so I still get it through the end of July or middle July. I don't want to say for sure on this. I'm pretty sure Audrey joined the Athletic in July of whatever year it was. 7 years ago now is what you think she said it was, which is insane to me. It's been that long. I've been a subscriber to the Athletic. I think I literally signed up the week that she joined the Athletic.
Yeah. Yeah. And she, I feel like she gets, I think maybe some people that are loyal to, let me put it this way. She always asked difficult questions, and we always respect that. We always give Cory Geiger a lot of credit for that when he was on the beat, and Audrey would also do that. Sometimes Audrey would have opinions that I didn't agree with, and we would even say it on here, or she would ask questions that I'd be like, did she need to ask that? But you know what? That's good. That's good. Like, it shouldn't just all be like cookie cutter questions to the coach. Like, hey, I don't know. What kind of pregame ritual do you have, James? It shouldn't all be like questions like that. Sometimes you have to ask some difficult questions, and Audrey was always somebody to do that. And then when you look at what her writing was like, I mean, she's a brilliant writer as well. So I do think no matter where she goes next, no matter what she does next, she's gonna find success. As far as what it means for media in general, yeah, I agree with a lot of what you're saying, Cory. Like, it's going, first off, the power of the pen as far as writing. It's not what it once was. It just isn't. People.
Is it because people aren't using good pens nowadays? Because I will say this, I don't think a good pen is appreciated as much nowadays. Like, call me bougie, I write with very good pens. This is a nice little 0.7 here. It's a Bic, but it's an expensive Bic. I always say that the pack size determines how good of a pen it is. I think this was a 4-pack pen. Very good pen's got a good grip to it. Just ran out of ink on one. Was very bummed about that. But anyway, does the pen quality matter in this, Shawn?
Well, I mean, I have a feeling Audrey never wrote an article using an actual pen. Maybe in high school, but but people don't. Not enough people. I still like to do it. Like to sit down and read paragraph after paragraph of analysis. People like the tweets, whatever you could fit into 280 characters or less. Like, they like that. They like video content. And maybe it's because we're all in such a hurry all the time, and maybe it's just our attention span.
Fast food media.
Yeah, and maybe it's just our attention spans have lessened. I think that's true. I think that's one of the real criticisms of, as somebody who likes to defend young people a lot, and I do more than the average bear. They don't have an attention span. Very
No,
long.
we suck at that.
That is a valid criticism.
Are we considered young?
I'm starting to be considered less and less young. You are. You're still in your 20s. I'm 30 now.
That's true.
You know, but that's a valid criticism. And I don't think it's anything intentional that young people do. I think it's just the world they got brought up in. They got brought up in a social media world. They got brought up in everything's available on your phone. And that just used to not be the world. People would have to wait for the newspaper the next day, and they would go, and a lot of people would read the entire newspaper. My grandpa still reads the whole newspaper.
That's awesome. I'm jealous of that.
Yeah, like that's just something that I think even maybe 2 generations now ahead of us did. And we just don't see that anymore. And now, long story short, you're seeing the results of that in writers getting let go. And yes, does a creative void? Of course it does. And that's why you have, and this is true in sports, this is true in politics, this is true everywhere. You're having you see Pat McAfee's show, politics, if it's Ben Shapiro, Tucker Carlson, you know, any of these people, they are being broadcasted a lot more than somebody like George Will, who's old school conservative writer. You know, if you ask young people, do you know who George Will is? No, you get blank faces. Do you know Tucker Carlson? They would all say yes, whether they like him or they don't like him. And that's the same thing that's going on in the sports world. You ask young people, Pat McAfee. Everybody knows Pat McAfee. You ask them about who's a notable college football writer, Corey? I'm blanking. But you ask them about one. It's just not gonna.
I would argue like you could take any of the guys, like who's one I'm thinking of, like basically anybody from around the horn, like Woody Page.
Yeah, somebody like Woody Page. Probably not. And you know what? If it wasn't for around the horn,
how many people do you think even know Dan Levitard anymore?
I mean, Dan Levitard is a pretty big show, though.
But okay, I guess, do they know he's a writer though?
No. Same thing with Stephen A. Stephen A. came up as a writer. Like, he wrote for like 20 years.
Mariotti, that's another one I was thinking of.
Yeah, Jay Mariotti.
Jay Adondi.
Yep. I think
Jackie
Bonnie Jones, Jackie McMullen. Like, these people are all journalists.
Yeah.
Pat McAfee is not a journalist. We are not journalists.
And I like Pat McAfee for whatever it's worth. But you're right. Like it's a different world.
Yeah, I like McAfee too. And you're right. Like I think in a world like today, you need to adapt and I mean that this is one thing. Like, I also listen to Audrey's podcast. And I think she'll do fine with that too. And I think people need to adapt more and more to the new media, because you could be part of the media and not be a journalist. And that just really wasn't the way it was 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah. It's funny because I'm like, I don't know what she's gonna do. It's like insulting, but it's like, I hope she finds something that is going to be of the same value. And like, I just don't know what's out there. Like, for example, you know, you got Ben Jones. Say what you will about Ben Jones. Was with statecollege.com for a while. He moved to Minnesota. Probably shouldn't be still trying to do Penn State stuff, in my opinion, but he is. But at the same time, like, he wasn't able to land with anybody of note. I don't know if he tried, but like does Audrey try? Like, the only, like, unless On3 is looking for somebody like that, but they have Nate Bauer, who I think does a similar thing. I don't know. Like, maybe 24/7 Sports picks her up, because I'm trying to think over there. Like, yes, I know they have Donahue and they have Daniel Gallen, but I don't think either of them are to the same quality from what Audrey does perspective. Like the more insightful pieces, like yeah, they can do some of the other stuff that she was kind of, in my opinion, probably forced to do as far as like snap count and answering those kind of questions. But like that's not why you read an Audrey Snyder story. Like right.
Yeah, like Donahue's great with the podcast, but I subscribe to 24/7 too, and I think Tyler Donahue does a good job, but podcasting is what he's best at, in my opinion. Where Audrey, what she's best at is writing. And
right.
Everybody has their strengths and different things they do better.
Right. Sorry about that. We'll see what happens there, but it's frustrating, I think, from that standpoint for sure. All right. I think we got that out of the way. Again, unlike The Athletic, we still have a show. And the last thing I want to say on this, and it's not about Audrey, it's just about their entire concept. Because you can think what you want about Audrey Snyder. Like, I don't know if anyone doesn't like her. I'm guessing maybe some people don't like her for what her and John
don't like her
did as far as the questions they asked her in that one presser. I'm sure some other people don't like her just because she's a woman, like whatever.
Plays a role.
But forget anything how you feel about her for a second. Just the position itself, the elimination of the position doesn't make any sense to me, Shawn.
No, that's another point. Yes.
Penn State is a top 5 team, fully aligned from the top to the bottom. Just made it to the semifinals in the college football playoff. Was in the Big Ten championship. Say whatever you want as far as winning the big game, whatever. Like, they are moving in the right direction. If anybody deserves a team, like, you basically can say it would probably be Ohio State. I guess you could maybe throw in Oregon, but Texas, Georgia, Alabama. And then, like, I don't know how Penn State's not on that list. I mean, you could maybe go to LSU, Tennessee, obviously Notre Dame, but like Penn State's in that top 10. So like if you're going to try to do this at all, if you're going to have any dedicated beat reporters, Penn State has to be one of them. Otherwise, forget about the entire concept.
Yeah, and
I think Iowa still has one. I'll have to double check that. Is Scott over there in Iowa still employed?
Oh, if he is, Cory's going to lose his mind. But yeah, Penn State, and it's not only that, I think
Scott's considered a national college football reporter.
That's
out of Iowa City now.
Yeah. Like Penn State, like the fan base too. Like we have such a big, giant fan base that it does surprise me a little bit that we wouldn't be one of the programs that people would want to continue, that the Athletic wouldn't want to continue to cover. On top of what we've done on the field, we've had three straight seasons, winning 10 or more games. Just went to the Final Four for the first time, and we're going to be a top 4 to 5 team going into next season. Maybe even higher. I mean, it's just a strange time to cut Penn State out, but I mean, you do have to wonder though, like we made that, made it kind of a broader talk. You do have to wonder, is the Athletic just in trouble? And they need to really, really start scaling back, because sometimes that happens with these sports media companies. It just seems like the type of move that you make when you're in big trouble.
Yeah. Because, like, to me, if you're having to cut ties there, you would think from a triage perspective, you've made all the other cuts. Like, I don't want to equate Audrey Snyder to, like, a human body part, but she's not a finger or a toe. Like, you've already lost those if you're at this point.
Yeah. 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 And I mean, sometimes, too, like, if it wasn't, then it just wouldn't make sense to make a cut. I mean, The only one that makes cuts that don't make sense are Elon Musk. But
I don't know if you're allowed to say that from where you're at.
hey, Elon. Yeah, but there could just be incompetence too. They might just not know what they're doing, like some other people don't.
I don't know, man. But anyway, glad we kind of got that out there. I'm sure a lot of people probably don't care, but we've had her on the show. We listen, read everything that they put out. And so that, in a way kind of hits a little bit closer to home for us. My granddad texted me pretty much as soon as it happened. I
texted you as soon as it happened too. Yeah.
So like it has been affected. And I think that just goes to show how awesome she was, right? That literally it affected a lot of people. And I know that wasn't just me who canceled. So we'll see what they do there.
On the beat.
Me too. And I don't know where, but yeah. We'll see what happens there. Shawn, practice notes. Probably the most important practice note, and really the only one I have, is no one's practicing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have enough fingers and toes to count all the players that are not currently practicing. Now, is that because of a long off season? Is that because of an abbreviated winter workout session? Is that because literally we're only like 135, 34 days till the season starts? I don't know. It's probably all of that. Like some guys probably are still coming back from surgery because like abbreviated off season, they had to have surgery like right after the season. And then like, they're probably not going to be ready till halfway through the summer. So like, there's a lot of things that are happening with this, like, when you make it as far as you do in a playoff and then having to turn around and then spring practice is here. But Shawn, that's probably the biggest thing is like nobody's practicing right now, like, which is good for the young guys, but it, to be honest, makes the spring practice pretty dull.
Yeah, I would agree. I hope it's just due to that. And due to the abbreviated off season, like, don't forget guys, the season only ended 3 months ago. Which sitting here in April, it just doesn't feel like that. It's not like either like it used to be. We would have the end of the season and then we would have our bowl game and then that's it. Whereas this year we had last game of the season against Maryland. Then we had Oregon and then we played SMU and then we played Boise State and then we played Notre Dame. So that's 4 additional games after the season, regular season, instead of just 1. So what that means, a lot more wear and tear, a lot more guys playing through injuries, a lot more probably guys that picked up some bumps and bruises in the playoff run. And maybe their bumps and bruises became bumpier and bruisier. So they might end up needing surgery now. So I think that's a lot of what it is, because honestly, it seems like behind the scenes, there's not a whole lot of panic about it, or we would have heard something. But you do look at some of the names on this list. I mean, Rojas we knew, but DDS hasn't practiced in a while. I don't know if he's practiced all spring. AJ Harris didn't practice today. And then Donko we knew was coming back from injury. Luke Reynolds didn't practice. And some of it's probably just holding guys out. Just the random practice in the spring that we don't need them.
Right.
But it does make you, I don't know about concerned, but it would just make me sleep a little better at night if some of these guys are practicing.
I think there's enough young guys. Like we always talk about how good of depth Penn State has, but I would not say that the depth is necessarily overly experienced. So like, yeah, we think there's some good guys, but to your point, like a lot of these guys need to get reps, and it's good, especially like along the offensive line to get some of the other guys involved. But like, I would argue like Anthony Dunca and Nolan Rucci, like, yeah, they've now played in games and they've been around, but they still aren't overly experienced from like a true starting perspective. Luke Reynolds falls in that category as well.
Yeah,
so
like Luke Reynolds on the field, on the game field, really hasn't done anything yet, except
Elliot Washington, who's done very well.
Yeah.
even in his how much he's played, but also, what we've seen obviously in winter workouts and stuff. That's great. But like, he hasn't played a ton. Like, all these reps are very good for him right now. And you could say that about a lot of guys. So there's only like even look at the defense. Like, there's not a bunch of like guarantee rock solid guys that I feel 100% about. Like Zane Durant, DDS, Zakee Wheatley, Dom Harris. And that's about it. Yep. There's other guys that have played, but I'm not like sitting here and saying like, oh yeah, I 100% trust them at this point on April 8th, 2025. Like, I like a lot of the guys. But what does that say about what I just said about that linebacking room?
Yeah, I mean, it's few and far between. And there are guys even at linebacker that we like. Like, I think Speck is going to be good.
I think he's going to be really good.
I think Tamir Robinson is going to be good. We haven't seen them yet, though. I think LeVar Jr. eventually will be good. But
very, very raw. I think.
Yes. That seems to be the consensus.
Talk about the media bullcrap we just started the whole podcast with. That got a little overblown, in my opinion. Like, oh, he looks just like Abdul Carter. We've got to stop, and this doesn't matter if they're black or white, but we've got to stop with this whole he's black and he's wearing this number so he looks like this, or he's white and he's wearing this number so he looks like this. Whether it's Abdul Carter and LeVar Arrington, or if it's Trace McSorley and Bo Prabula. Like, it's such a lazy comparison.
Though, Anthony Speck, a lot like Dan Connor.
Spitting image of Glenn Carson.
Yeah, it is something we do. And LeVar Jr. does look the part, I will say that. I mean, you look at him, but looking the part and actually doing it, I mean, there have been a lot of guys that have come through, Corey, that look the part and they're not very good.
Yeah.
A lot. I'm not going to name any names right now, but
Brandon Smith.
Yeah, like Brandon Smith. Yeah, I hate to throw him under the bus here, but
you didn't do it. I did it.
Was fast.
Could hit people.
But was he good? I'd argue no. I'd argue above average, maybe college player, but but that's kind of a good example of a guy
Justin
that
Shorter
look the part. Justin Shorter looked the part. Didn't matter. You kind of.
That one just still baffles me.
The thing with Justin Shorter.
I'm interrupting you a lot today. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Like, he always looked like timid or something. Every time I saw him play, it was baffling to watch him sometimes. But there are lots of guys like that. And do I think LeVar will be good? I do. I think he just needs to be more refined, and that's very normal for a freshman. But yeah, as far as guys that we absolutely trust right now, like, we're still trying to work out the number 2 corner. I think Elliott Washington, Davian Collins. I think there are guys that, we feel pretty good about. But feeling good about someone and trusting someone, late in the game, trying to close out Oregon or trying to close out Ohio State, and we need to stop. I wish there were more guys that I could point to and be like, okay, we got this guy on the field. But
yeah,
but that's very we could have said the same thing going into last year. Like, we didn't know how good AJ Harris would be. We didn't know how good Jalen Kimber would be for us, because really, right. Jalen Kimber, he played a lot of football. He really wasn't that great at Florida. He played by far his best football at Penn State.
Right. I really thought he was going to come back for another year. I know he had a pretty good pro day. I think, Shawn, we've got what, the draft is the 25th, I think.
Yeah.
So that's the same weekend as Blue and White.
Yep, I got a wedding that weekend too.
Okay, so let's just
Blue White in a long time, but I will be this year.
So we'll have a show before then. We won't have a show next week, just FYI. But the week after, we'll try to have a show. We'll really break down the NFL draft and also Blue and White, whatever that scrimmage is going to be. But I have no idea where Kimber's going to go. Zero idea.
I mean, I know he had a good pro day, but it just usually doesn't bode well when you don't get a combine invite. Did Cliff go to the combine?
No.
Yeah, he
No,
still got
no,
drafted
he
in the
did
fifth
not.
round though, so you never know. Like, and there were a ton of scouts that are at our pro day this year. So, do I think
Remember I
somebody
made that
takes a
big
look
stink
at?
about him not being invited to the
Yeah.
combine? And
Oh,
then,
right. You're pulling up random quarterbacks that got invited
Yeah.
to the combine that Cliff was better than, and a lot of those guys aren't on NFL rosters right now, and Sean Clifford still is. So,
Yeah.
looks like Cliff was at practice today.
Good to know.
Yeah, how about that?
See, and people said that there wasn't anything going on. Big Red Dog was in town.
The Clifford Wars.
Yeah. We'll see where we're at with all that come July.
Where we're at with all what?
I just feel like that was misrepresentative that I was somehow against Sean Clifford all of a sudden.
Who said that?
It was just because of my one tweet about him running out of a healthy pocket.
Oh, that. Well, I think some people misinterpreted it that way.
Well, I mean, I was like relatively dissing him, but in the
You
grand
were,
scheme of
but-
things, it wasn't
What
like,
about poor Brandon Smith?
yeah.
Well, I guess the difference is we never really thought Brandon Smith was that good. So
I really thought Brandon Smith was going to be great.
I did too.
We're not talking
remember
about
what-
Lewisburg middle linebacker Brandon Smith, just to be clear for everybody.
No.
at home.
Yeah, two different Brandon Smiths. He was actually better than we thought he'd be.
Yeah. You know, Alex Tash, spitting image of he's a Brandon Smith, Jan Johnson type, if you ask me.
He's got a little bit of Chris Colasante to him.
Oh man. I don't think we talked about Alex Tash last episode. When we talked about when he first committed, I just want to remind people that I was on record that I think Alex was going to be very good. And so far we've heard some pretty good things, or at least we think we've heard some good things. I really like him, so I'm excited to see what happens there. I'm not saying he's going to be like starting this year or anything like that, but I'm just saying he could be a fan favorite, I think, when it's all said and done.
You ever find yourself at night thinking
It's
about
going
the
to get
depth,
weird quickly.
thinking about the depth at defensive tackle?
So when I
I
went
do.
to that list of people that I said I like have confidence, did I start that list with Zane Durant? I think I did, right?
You did.
Okay,
you did.
good. I meant to, because I think I have the utmost confidence in Zane Durant. Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah. Him I'm not talking about, but it's everybody else.
Is it weird to say that I think the success of the defensive tackle position for Penn State relies heavily on how healed Alonzo Ford's junior knee is?
100%. Yeah. If Alonzo Ford's good to go, I know right now he's not practicing, obviously. He had a bad injury. But if he's good to go to start the year, then yeah. And the good thing is he really has until Oregon to tune himself up, because we don't play anybody until then. So I think we even have a bye week really early this year. So he has time to heal up before then, because that'll be a game we will need him.
Other than him, I don't exactly know where the depth chart goes to after that.
I think Gilliam, you hear a lot of good things about Xavier Gilliam, but again,
Yes.
we never saw him play outside of mop-up duty. Liam Andrews was hurt all last year. I still think he's going to be good. I just don't know.
Honestly,
when.
I totally forgot about Liam Andrews. He's our dude.
Yeah, he is. I thought he was going to be the
You
best
better
player in
hope
this
that he
class.
turns out, or I'm going to give you crap for the rest of the time.
Yes. Now, he was hurt last year, so that's why I didn't hear a ton about him. Tyreek Blanding is there. He's another guy, looks the part. We'll see if he could put it together. And I think Wafley is going to play inside, correct?
Waffle. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he's going to play tackle. So, but again, none of those guys have ever done anything. Yeah. And that's no diss on them. They haven't had a chance to do anything yet. But you just got to see how the rest of that depth turns out. Generally, at defensive tackle, I think Franklin likes to have 5 guys that he could trust. And I mean, last year, we went from having a lot of defensive tackles to having 3 at the end of the year. Literally 3 that we played. And I don't think you can get through a whole season like that, only having 3 guys you could trust, because defensive tackles get hurt. It's just the nature of the position. They get a lot of contact and they're big dudes.
Big dudes in the trenches. Let's go, and I just want to briefly talk about the NFL draft with Abdul Carter because we didn't get there last week. I saw a mock draft today, and forgive me to whoever it was. Don't even know who it was with. It could have been my neighbor throwing this up. I don't know. But I saw Tyler Warren going 8th today. So
who's picking 8th?
I don't know. Couldn't even tell you who it was.
Yeah, I know. I see him getting mocked to the Jets a lot, and I know they're right in that neighborhood.
That's terrifying.
And I hope he doesn't go to the Jets. I don't want another Penn State guy going to the Jets.
They just got Russell Wilson, right?
No, that's the Giants. They got Justin Fields. They got the other guy from the Steelers.
I'm trying to find who was yeah, I know I can't find it, but I don't know. I don't know whose mock draft it was that had him there, but
you know what I think helps Tyler Warren too? Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers was so good last year, and I actually wanted Brock Bowers.
Panthers are 8.
Well, Bryce Young ended up having a good season last year.
I couldn't tell you one weapon that the Panthers have. Didn't they just get somebody from? Did they get somebody from the Redskins? Or the football team, whatever, or the Commanders?
Commanders is like the worst name out of those 3 too. It's so funny. They should just be the football team.
I think when we go back in 20 years and talk about I don't know if this will all considered the COVID era. I think we're finally coming out of it. But when we go back 20 years from now and just talk about that time period, whether the people that really hate all that stuff would go talk about us being woke or being over woke or whatever it is. But this whole era and I think just the symbol of all of it should just be the fact that we literally had a team named the Washington Football Team. That is just sums up how the bizarreness of what we had to go through in 2019, 2020, 2021. All just kind of encapsulates into we literally had to call a team the Washington Football Team.
Yeah, that was quite a time. And the thing about the Commanders too, that was decided by a boardroom full of white dudes that was just let's pick the safest term. And they said Commanders. And then the meeting ended. You just know that's how it went.
There's a lot of research into that just to make sure there wasn't any sort of underlying tones.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's just pick a generic name.
I thought they got somebody, but maybe not.
Yeah, I don't know, but they have
Adam Thielen.
They do. I thought Adam Thielen was done too, but he ended up having a good season last year with them. But yeah, a big part of the problem with the Panthers, and that's a whole other issue with the quarterbacks and how I have a working theory now that everybody except Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, and Lamar Jackson, pretty much every other quarterback is a product of their environment in the NFL. And there are only a few guys that I think would succeed anywhere. And if you're a team that gives a quarterback nothing, well, they're not going to be anything special. Look no further than Sam Darnold's career before the Vikings and Sam Darnold with the Vikings. Baker Mayfield before the Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield with the Buccaneers. Just a random aside.
Just so you know, Audrey Snyder is at the press conference today. And she just has Nittany Dispatch in her Twitter profile.
What is Nittany Dispatch?
That's her podcast with John Sauber.
Oh, okay.
She's been covering since 2010. But anyway, she's there right now. Franklin's being interviewed. He just said that, unsurprisingly, he just said that Drew Aller needs to take another step forward this year. We need him to continue to take another step this year in every area, just like he already has. So there you go. Said he feels that running backs coach Stan Drayton has been real intentional with his drills so far this spring, and that he's very pleased with Jim Knowles. The practices have been very competitive. So there you go. There's the breaking news for you via Onward State Sports.
Sounds like he told us a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just curious to see where Abdul Carter will end up landing. I think I see him a second more than I see him first. I think him not participating in the pro day hurts him. I think not participating in the combine is one thing, but I would have really liked to see him from a pro day perspective.
I think I heard somebody on a podcast say that the Browns, and this would be a total Browns move. Who do you think they're looking at right now?
They're probably looking at Prime's kid.
No, not him.
Really? Quarterback?
Yes.
Is it a
No.
quarterback? It's not a quarterback.
It's not a quarterback.
I'm assuming it's not a kicker or a punter. That would be worse even for the Browns.
No, yeah, it's not that bad. Good player, but number 2 overall is a stretch and a half.
So not the. Why can't I think of any names? Not the corner / receiver.
Yeah,
Jesus.
Travis Hunter.
I'm not surprised by that, honestly.
You guys don't have. You have Deshaun Watson as your quarterback.
There's something today.
What are you thinking?
There's something today that he might not play this year.
Oh, really? Well, then they don't have really anybody, and then you have a chance to pair Abdul Carter with Myles Garrett.
Yeah,
and that's going to be such
fun to
a
watch.
Scary combination. But instead, you're going to go get a guy, like in general, in my opinion.
And by the way, they drafted what's his face from Michigan, Jabril Peppers.
Yeah, they did draft Jabril Peppers.
So they love these two-way, just useless players.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like he's like Hunter. He's a good player, but if people think he's going to play both ways full time in the NFL, you are taking crazy pills. I don't even think the Browns think that. So why take him second overall when he's a good corner? But that's where he's going to play. Do you really want to take a good to maybe really good corner number 2 overall? I don't think, personally, I don't love when a team takes anything, like if you're drafting that high, anything besides a big person or a quarterback. I think anything else, that guy better be really, really special. Like you better be drafting Charles Woodson or Deion Sanders if you're taking a guy that high. And I don't think that's Travis Hunter. Some people would disagree with me too. I just don't see it. I think he's a good player. But he's not going to be somebody who's going to play both ways. And that's really what made him special in college.
I'm going to get us back on track.
All right, let's do it.
So
anyway, Abdul Carter.
No. So Franklin said that Dan Connor has been very pleased with Anthony Specca. This spring will be very important, but he's excited to watch him in fall camp once he's really into the system. And he also confirmed what you said, Shawn. Listed Alonzo Ford and Xavier Gilliam as defensive tackles who have stepped up alongside Zane Durant.
There we go.
So just, you basically more than Franklin at this point.
That's right. I foresaw it.
There's a 2-minute or a 30-second clip about Tamir Robinson that I might watch later. But yeah, that's about it. The only other thing I don't even want to go into it tonight. I think we're already past the time. Let's save that aggression conversation for another time. I even know that the title of the episode is aggression. But maybe we will let the listeners marinate on it a little bit, and we'll come back and answer the question next episode, which is, has James Franklin been conservative, or has his conservation cost Penn State football games? And let me just say, is that the main problem that Penn State needs to fix? Because where this is all stemming from is our boy Cory Geiger, who's been on the show many times, had tweeted out, and I quote here, quote, "None of this has ever been Penn State's biggest weakness. Weakness has always been Franklin's game day coaching. Predictable, conservative, bad decisions and clutch adjustments take too long. If all else is fixed, Franklin himself now has to step up." I don't even disagree with everything Cory Geiger said there, but I really don't think the reason why Penn State hasn't won the national championship is because Franklin has been conservative, especially when you look at the last couple of years. Maybe you could argue 2017, 2018. I don't think.
But what did we have during those times? A terrible offensive line.
Right. Well, let's just talk about it then. So that, to me, Shawn, is exactly where I went with this. I think too many times coaches are labeled as conservative or aggressive based off of what they can do with their offensive line. Like, you can't throw the ball deep every play if you have a crappy offensive line. Like, look at what Lincoln Riley had at USC this past year and how many close games they lost and how many leads they blew and how many people said he was conservative. He was not conservative. He just doesn't know what else to do with a bad offensive line and a quarterback that throws interceptions. Like, you can't drop back and throw the ball or when you're up, run the ball effectively to put games away. Like, and it's not about choosing to be conservative. At that point, the decision's been made for you. So look, has Franklin been conservative in the past? Yes. I would also argue anytime a decision doesn't end well late in the game, people say it was conservative. But I would argue, maybe not Franklin specifically, but Penn State lost the 2 last games they lost against Notre Dame and Oregon. They lost because they were overly aggressive. And maybe not Franklin specifically, but the 2nd and 1, when they threw the interception to Oregon, they were being overly aggressive, and they took more than what the defense gave them, and it cost them. Notre Dame, they had just got a first down. They could have just sat on it and went to overtime. They tried to push the envelope, and they threw a pick. That's the opposite of being aggressive. Now,
being conservative, yes.
Yes, thank you. So anyway, I don't think it's a real thing anymore. I think it's very obvious in hindsight to make those things, and I don't even think Franklin's game day coaching is the biggest issue. Like, are there times he messes up? Yes, but I'd say that about every coach. I don't find him predictable. I don't find him conservative. I mean, the Minnesota fake punt, I think, says all that needs to be said about that. That potentially literally saved the season. The biggest one I think Cory Geiger did hit on was the adjustments take too long. I do think sometimes they wait till they get to the half to make some of those adjustments. I think a lot of that has to do with the coaches around him and also the players and the positions that need to make those adjustments. But that would be probably one of the bigger ones is like when the game plan doesn't work, sometimes we have to wait till halftime to make the adjustments to move the ball effectively or stop somebody, which is usually the case.
Yeah, as far as Franklin's game day coaching, to me, the biggest common thread that's continued throughout his tenure here, the biggest negative is coming out and not looking, I don't want to even say not looking ready, but just the game plan not working immediately. And then usually at halftime, everything is fine because we're able to adjust. But, if you want to criticize him for that, to me, that's where it would be, because that's continued through different coaches, through different players. And, you can point to a few games where that didn't really happen, like 2017 Ohio State, the opposite happened. But that was kind of an anomaly. Most games that Penn State has lost, we come out and we go down early and then we make some kind of rally. Then sometimes we win, sometimes we lose. That seems to be what has happened. But as far as being too conservative, I don't really think so. Now, I think you could make like you said, you could have made that argument back 2017, 2018, 2016 at times, but not really now. Like if you think about one game I come back to a lot is the end of the Rose Bowl against USC, and we just couldn't run the ball. We at the end of the game, we put up all those points. We put up near 50 points, and we couldn't get 10 yards. We couldn't get a few yards on the ground with Saquon Barkley. We just couldn't do it. And we ended up having to throw the ball because we couldn't do it. And then Trace ends up throwing an interception. That happened more time. That seemed to happen a lot. Seemed to in games that we lost. So that's why, I think Franklin would get criticized for being conservative because he's trying to run the clock out, but then we're losing 3 yards. And then people are saying Franklin's being conservative. And it's like, but we just lost the Rose Bowl because we couldn't run the clock out. Like every single coach wants to run the clock out at the end of the game and kneel down. Like that's what they want to do. They don't want to put it in their defense's hands again. And we just didn't have the team to do that. So it looked like Franklin was just being ultra conservative. And then we'd end up losing these games. When that wasn't really always the case. Like remember, Cory, for a while, we were going through a lot of games that we would blow in the fourth quarter.
Yes.
Michigan State 2017.
Line. We almost lost to Maryland in 2015 because of that.
Yeah.
In M&T Bank.
Yeah, like there were a lot of games that we were just blowing in the fourth quarter. And of course, like clockwork, people would all jump on the blame James Franklin bandwagon and say, I don't know, that he got too conservative because we couldn't run the clock out like every other team wants to do. So to me, it's not really a too conservative thing. Like, and like you said, Cory, sometimes I think we're too aggressive, like the going for 2 against Michigan in 2023. I still have no idea why I went for 2 there. I know the explanation Franklin gave Dave Jones, kind of a heated back and forth. I still just didn't agree with it. But that was him being too aggressive. And then Mike Yurcich calls the most boneheaded play ever, too, on top of it. There was in 2021, we ran a fake kick against Michigan as well. Again, that's an example of being too aggressive. So I think, if anything, in the last few years, you could criticize him more for being too aggressive.
I agree. I agree with 100%. 100%, Shawn.
We're like-minded.
Because we're right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't even have any thing to add to that. I think you just hit it spot on. It. There's a lot of other things that we need to focus on. You know what? One thing that I would actually harp on Franklin more about is quarterback development. Not that it's necessarily his role by itself, but like Trace got better. I wouldn't say he got like amazingly better, but like he got a little bit better. Obviously, Hackenberg didn't really improve. Again, that maybe some of it was because of the offensive line and the coordinator at the time.
Cliff got better.
Cliff did get better. 100%
Yeah.
Cliff got better. Now, he had plenty of time to do so, but Cliff did get better.
Yes, yeah, he played a long time here, but yeah, he did get better. By 2019 Cliff and 2022 Cliff, two different people.
And I think this is a good opportunity for Franklin to maybe nix that as well. If Allard takes that next step that he just talked about in the press conference, that's huge. I do think Drew Allard did get better from last year, from 2 years ago to last year. Where he was at last year, still not good enough, but was a obvious step in the right direction. Now, I don't think that was just because of Andy Kotonicki either. Like, I think it helped, but like he did better. Period. Like, he trusted his legs more. He did have a little more moxie to him. He was more deliberate with the football. Like, he did make improvements. He also helped. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, he was better too against lesser opponents. Like the 2023 Indiana game would not have happened last year because Drew was a lot better and Drew was pretty bad in that 2023 Indiana game. I just don't think that happens last year.
Yeah. No, I agree with all that. So, it's not good enough, but I think if he does take that next step and is a little bit better against the best teams, or more importantly, just makes one or two, because like that play he made against Oregon in that Big Ten championship was a hell of a throw, hell of a catch, like guy drooping all over him. Those are kind of the things that you need. And so maybe it's not even adding more to what he's done. Maybe it's just cutting out one or two of those crucial mistakes. If he leads the team down and they score, I think to tie the game at that point, I think they're down 8 when he threw that pick. I don't know if it was 7 or 8, but
it was 8, yeah.
Like that, if he makes that, but that to me is like taking that next step.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that to me is what I would like to see Franklin improve on specifically.
Yeah, he's got to be obviously better against the better opponents, but then when the chips are down, you got to make a play. And if the play is not there, you don't need to throw the ball, which is something he's usually good at, except in those situations.
Except for down the stretch.
Yes, he's usually great with that, but still, even like you said, it was 2nd and 1. The Notre Dame interception was 1st and 10. Like, you don't get it, throw it away. If there's nothing there, it's okay.
Perfect. No, I agree. Well, Shawn, let's get out of here.
All right.
We will not have an episode next week, but we'll be back before blue and white / draft. And I will see Shawn this weekend.
You will.
Hopefully I will not see Shawn sober for much of the weekend, as in me or him, but we'll see.
Yeah, should be a good time.
Okay. Thank you guys for listening. That's Shawn Kane over there. I'm Cory Lestochi. You've been listening to Hardcore Penn State Football. Until next time. Bye, everybody.